Okay. Just to get just for the record, so that in the future we know what this is all about. It's September 5th, and 1995, and there are a group of us sitting here to reminisce about Ken Black. And I thought, again, for the record, if each of you could introduce yourself and just say a few words about how long you've been with the club, your brief knowledge of Ken, just to get the voice identified and that sort of thing. John, do you want to start off?
No, I know what I'm going to say, yeah.
Just to introduce yourself so that you can identify your name and
well, now tell me, my association with Ken Black goes back to the junior days at Old Shaughnessy, where I saw more of him and played more with him in those days than before either of us became members of Capilano. So that doesn't have much to do as far as this club.
Okay, that's fine, and we've just been hearing from Ken Newbury. John, can you?
Mine is going to come out of a totally different context on this thing. I never played golf with Ken Black.
Okay.
Much to my dismay, didn't have the opportunity because I was a junior when he was Canadian amateur champion. And junior golf, of course, wasn't anything to take notice of in those days because we weren't even allowed in the golf course until after the sun went down out of university. And but I remember Ken Black from those days. And he was Harry Winder's nephew. And Harry Winder was my mentor, I guess, as a golf pro. I'm going to talk about just that era, that's all.
Yeah.
My period at Capilano started in 1946. I'm Harry Dingle, by the way, for the sake of the record. I played with Ken a fair amount after the war. It was just normal pick-up golf. We used to play on Tuesday afternoons, for example. 7 or 8 of us used to, as you remember that, Ken. We'd start off in the first hole and finish in about 3.5 hours, incidentally. It didn't take all that long. But I'll just leave that alone for just now and go on.
Okay, I'm Peter Bentley, and I'd like to just say something about my hero worship when I first met him and knew what his accomplishments were, the privilege it was to know him, to play with him, and I would like to tell a few stories about that and to build on the one that Harry Dingle just mentioned about the early Tuesdays, because he was one of the backbones of that Igoroti game that cost everybody $1.80 to enter.
That's right.
But I would like to make a few comments about Ken because we also did business with him, so I knew him as a all-round fellow that I respect Ken as being. I'll turn it over to Mr. Newbury.
Well, I'm Ken Newbury. My association with Ken goes back a little further than the rest of you, I guess, because I played quite a bit of golf with Ken when we were 14 and 15 years of age, when his father, Davy Black, was a pro at Old Shaughnessy. And that's where we sort of all cut our teeth together playing golf. After the war, I started to renew my playing with them, and I guess for 4 or 5 years we'd have a couple of games a month at least, usually on a Saturday. And then it wasn't long before I would get back from lunch to the office on a Thursday. There'd be a message there, Mr. Black won't be able to make it on Saturday. And after that happened about 6 times, I gathered that Ken wasn't quite as interested in golf at that stage of his life than he had been before that. And I've mentioned to Harry Dingle that I often think Ken played golf because it was expected of him. And I don't think he was, certainly he was keen, or he wouldn't have advanced to the stage that he did in the golfing world. But he quit playing competitively long before the rest of us sitting here, which I found very hard to understand. Another thing, right after the war, I played some badminton with him. Ernie McDermott, who used to have the Chev Olds agency there on Burrard, had a place right across from us on Keith Road in a beautiful badminton hall, and Clancy Sorensen, Ken, and Ernie and I used to play every Thursday. And I had a great appreciation for Ken's ability then as a natural athlete. He'd catch us with our pants down, so to speak, on the badminton court. The shuttle would come this way, and there's an empty space over there, and he'd lift his racket, and you swear that's where he's going to hit it, and he hits it over here. We missed it every time. So I don't know what else he did, but he could sure as hell play badminton as well as golf.
I'm curious about your statement that he was playing golf because it was expected of him. Did any of the others of you get that feeling that it was expected that he should play golf as opposed to being kind of driven to play golf himself?
Well, I don't think he was quite in the bracket of Walt McElroy, who when he quit competitively, he really didn't want to play any golf. So I think Ken enjoyed the fellowship of golf, but I would agree with Ken Newbury. He didn't really particularly care whether he played, but he was so married to Gerke stationery business that I think he felt compelled that if he asked others to be in there on Saturday, that he felt an obligation to set the example and be in there. And he really worked very hard. He took his job very seriously, did a hell of a good job, and he was a good guy to do business with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from my point of view, having learned what golf I did learn at University Golf Course with Harry Winder, and Harry Winder was with Kenny Black's uncle by family marriage with David, his father, or Dave Black, his father. His sister was married to Harry Winder, and that's where the relationship came in. But I always remember Ken, when he came up to the University Golf Course to visit Harry, and he was Canadian amateur golf champion at that time in 1939, when I was 12 or 13 years of age, and there were several of us caddies there at the university. Believe it or not, there were caddies required in those days at the university. We had some pretty good people out there playing golf. And Ken would park his car on Tommy Street with a big hedge that went around, all the way around to past the old clubhouse and down into the pro shop to see Harry. And us kids were in that little shack out the back there, and we'd come out and we'd look at Ken like he was from outer space. Oh yeah, because we didn't have any Canadian amateur golf championships in those days out of Western Canada. We really didn't. Mm-hmm. He was the only one. And therefore, and being keen on the game as we were, Ken Black was an absolute hero, as far as we were concerned. So that was my first and only experience with him. Never got to talk to him, but I saw him. Mm-hmm. That wasn't bad.
He was your hero, wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely unbelievable scene. For him to arrive there, but we didn't know at the time the relationship with Harry and Ken. Mm-hmm. But of course we soon found out. For him to arrive on the scene was pretty exciting for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really think that Ken just had a belly full of competitive golf, and so one thing I do know is that he had to work very hard. This is long before I knew him. When he was a young kid, his father made him. And I can remember one little incident about Dan McLean told me this story. He was a long-time member of Shaughnessy Golf Club, and he said he and his foursome were just starting off the first hole one day, and Ken was pretty young at the time, and he was working on sand shots, and he was just knocking them out of a practice bunker onto the practice green. So away they went, and they went and played their 18 holes of golf. And when they came back, Ken was still in the same place, hitting the same shots out of that same bunker, and that's he was probably one of the greatest around the greens that I've ever
That was
seen.
the strength of his game.
Yes,
I remember playing
and
here
a
on
great putter.
on the 14th hole. You know, we used to have KPs when you're playing on these
Yeah.
Tuesday things. And the rest of us would stand up on 14 with a 9 or a pitching wedge and whack the ball to the green. Ken took a 5-iron and invariably was the closest to the
Sure.
pin.
Well, the point I was trying to make was that I think he'd worked pretty hard at his game when he was younger, and
Oh yeah, his short
he
game
wanted to
was
relax a
fabulous.
little bit when he in his later years.
He had to work hard at it. To be good as he was. You just don't walk in and play on the
He
lead.
was almost as good a putter as you were.
Oh.
There you go.
No, on his long game, Ken, you played with him the most, but even when he was in his prime, and I caddied from at Point today in the PNGA once, he hit kind of a hook, almost like a Bobby Locke type of shot.
Mhm.
Like Bobby Locke, it was a short game, because I can remember when he played an exhibition in the Warriors with, they were called the Gold Dust Twins, with Brian Nelson and Jug McSpadden and Harry Guyven. And they all hit the ball better. And they were cleaner, purer type shots, but Kenny was just as effective. And he certainly belonged in the game, even though he looked a bit outclassed on the shot making. And at that time, of course, I think he was a bit older than the other fellows in that group, but he still played very well.
It's really funny, when here we are talking about Ken Black, and I'm 70 years old today. He was my hero as a kid at University Golf Course, and one of the things that really hurt me one day as I was watching him play and lose in the BC Amateur to Lyle Hirschman at Point Grey Golf Club. I was really upset about that. And I was an adult male at that stage of the game. I could come home from overseas. It was 46, I think that happened. I can't remember the year. I'm not sure, but I think it was after the war. I came home and I followed that man. I'm sure it was 46, 47, 48, somewhere in there. And Ken was still a significant individual in golf, in amateur golf. I remember him losing that game.
John, I think it was 46, because I don't
I
think
think
he
it
played
was
in
too.
any local event after he
Yeah.
lost to Martell
Absolutely.
in the finals in 46.
I'm so
Is
sure
that right?
it was 46, and I was upset that night that he lost that game. Because I related back, from prior to the war, back to 39 when I was at university, and he came there, and here was Ken Black, the only Canadian national golf champion we'd had in Western Canada. It was he. And that sinks in a little bit,
When did he stop playing competitively?
I think in 46, when he lost in the finals
That
for
was-
Canadian Amateur, I don't think he ever played a game.
No, I don't think he
Is
did
that
either.
right?
I think you're
Well,
right.
as we were talking about his games here at Capilano, he won the club championship once.
Yeah. That's just
And I'd go out to qualify with him, and he'd purposely whack, 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 whack on the
Yeah.
14th, forget to put anything down, and he's disqualified. He didn't want to win
No.
Well,
a second time.
well, this is why one of the things I had is I pleaded with him, because I won the club champion the first 4 times I played, and there was away one year. And I told him that I realized he was a completely different caliber golfer. But I said I didn't feel right because he's the best player, and come on out and play in it. And that year, he finally agreed, and that was 1956. And it looked like I would meet him in the finals, only Emmett Ritchie knocked me off in the semifinal. And then Emmett went on to beat Kenny the next week in the finals in a good match. But
Yeah, but
Kenny wouldn't play again, and he only played, I think, as a favor to those of us that pleaded with him to please play in it.
Because you wanted to play the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can tell you another side of a story was in one of the years I was a junior member here, and my parents were chartered members, so I used to come up, but I joined as a junior about 1946 or 7. And I got to play in the club championship in 1947, or at least I thought I did, in the qualifying round, and I shot 67. And then I was advised by phone that as a junior I couldn't play in the club championship. And Ken was so mad, he found out that A, that happened, and B, that there was no junior championship, so he put up the Ken Black trophy. And I am very proud to tell you that I was the first winner of a Ken Black trophy. And I think I'm prouder of that than the 6 club championships I won. And I think I'm the only one that's won the junior, the club, and I have won the seniors, so it goes back a long way. But Ken was just wonderful because he just thought it was all wrong. I was so proud, and I remember at that dinner of champions we had, he talked about that.
At the 50th anniversary?
Yeah.
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 That's good.
But I'd like to just enlarge and then have Ken and particularly Harry talk about it, because I was talking about the original Tuesday nights, and I put down names that quickly sprung to mind were Cam McLean and Gordon Bowers and Billy McKenzie and Bill McMahon, Hilliard Lyle, Ken Newbury, Harry Dingle, Bryce Evans, Jack McGuire, Taddy James. I mean, you know,
that's the group.
They were here all the time. I was a late comer that was accepted to be allowed to play with them, but you paid your 180, which was a 10-cent a hole Igoroti, and that was the game.
Igorotis, you don't hear that too
No,
often.
no.
I know.
Well, same as
They're
skins.
now called skins.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
two tie, all tie, and they were carryovers.
Yeah.
And everybody used to sit there and have fun with all the cards on the table, and it was a very compatible group. It was totally informal. Nobody needed tee-off times.
Yeah.
And Ken didn't like to give anybody strokes. Everybody took their handicap where it fell.
Yeah.
That's the way he
That's
wanted
right,
it.
yeah.
Oh, is
So
that
it is,
okay?
Oh, yeah.
I remember one
That's the way we
afternoon in
played it.
particular that if you'll excuse me for breaking in just for a minute. There was, I think 9 of us playing this particular afternoon, and when we got around to the 16th hole, we'd had, there were 6 or 7 carryovers on the Igoroti game. So the objective, of course, on 16, this was from the back tee in those days, the only tee we ever had, and whatever it was, 240 yards roughly. Anybody that hit the green, of course, and if nobody else did, would win all the Igorotis. So we all got up and hit. Some of us were short, some of us were a little all over the place, but Hilliard Lyle was up last. I think you were in that outfit, Ken, but maybe not. And he hit the absolutely perfect shot, and he was dead square on the pin, and he was the one that was going to win all the Igorotis. They get up there, and he's 4 inches off the back of the green. So no count.
No count, yeah.
Nobody would know what the hell you're talking about. You talk Eagle-Roadies today.
Oh, well,
I think it's Eagle-Roadies. That's going back a way, Harry.
well, I never heard of Igorotis until I came to Vancouver, but I soon learned.
My father used to play at university, and he was a 2-3 handicap. He played with Norm Wilkinson and Jimmy Shaw and a lot of, and the Little and there were 2 or 3. They all went out there and they played for $1 Nassau, and they played Eagle-Roadies, 10-cent or 2-bit Eagle-Roadies. It was serious money in 1936.
That's a lot.
That was serious money in 1936.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, these were 10-centers.
That's right, 10 centers, that's what they played for.
I think we'd be remiss because we're here to talk about Kenny Black though, and that is, I think he really cared for and loved this club. I mean, I think he was always willing to do things for the club.
Well, he's certainly been a great image in golf for this golf club too. You know.
No question about that.
Tell us about the junior days with him, Ken.
Well, thank you.
I'm sorry, Harry, I ordered.
Oh,
When did he
really
first
isn't,
appear to be the superstar
You
in the
ordered that for
making?
yourself.
No, I ordered it for you.
Well, you did.
Was he good when he was young?
Yes, but we didn't think he was Canadian amateur material, champion material. Stu Keat and Jeff Keat, his brother, and we used to go over after school and play. And, we did some stupid things, you know, like playing 54 holes in one day, just to see if it could
This
be
is when you all
done.
played out of Old Shaughnessy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when did you have the
Well, you
feeling
lived
that
just
he was-
across the street.
Sorry.
Yep, he didn't have far to go, Ken.
No,
Yep.
it was quite close.
Where'd you live on, 37th, right on the... off the-
33rd, weren't you?
We were on 40th.
You were on 40th.
Ken was on 37th.
Yeah, that's right. I think this is absolutely remarkable. This future stars of Shaughnessy Golf Club. What is it, 19 what?
28.
1928.
I
Did
was
you
just
see this,
wondering-
Peter?
Yeah, I did. Ken showed it to me. 2 years before I was born. And Ken was a
There are a lot
good-looking
of
guy in
names
his
in
house
there.
for his
Oh,
land.
there's a bunch there, yeah. Look at, and you got Arnie Cliff in here.
Sure, I saw that.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Uh,
Dave Kellum?
I'm interested in Peter's question, when you kind of sensed that he was championship material, when you were playing junior with him.
It just didn't enter any of our heads that anybody in that group would ever enter a national tournament. We were just out having fun, that's all.
Well, it wasn't that available to you that much in those days either, was it?
No. No, as I say,
That's one
when
reason.
we all turned 21 around 1934, Shaughnessy had no setup for juniors coming into the golf club, and we all quit. I went to Point Grey and bought a share for $25. A couple of them went to Jericho, and
Billy Randall, for God's sake. I mean, golf
Bob
was-
Randall, is he in there? Bob?
No, I don't think so, but
Jack
Bill.
is.
Who?
Jack Randall, Bob's
Jack.
brother.
Oh, Jack would have to be here somewhere.
He was club chairman for the Canadian Open in '66
That's right.
when I was RCGA chairman for it. And he was good to work with, especially when he was sober.
Freddie Dietrich, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's a hell of a picture.
It is.
That
It's
really
an
is.
unbelievable thing.
Many
You have a
years
gloss
after
for
that
it?
was taken, I was playing golf with Stuart Keat. And
Stu Keat.
I said I had this picture at home, and he wanted to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody could chase down who did it and where the negatives
Stu could
are,
do it.
Stu
Yeah,
could.
You're right, yeah.
And there's nothing. Nobody can find the thing.
Amazing.
Because I showed it to the Shaughnessy directors when they were having their 75th anniversary celebration. They just went crazy. And they made hundreds of copies of that. And
This is off for Ken Black's subject, but with Ken Newbury talking about Stu Keat, I think one of the great Stu Keats stories associated with Capilano was he and his wife played against my mom and dad in the finals of a city mixed championship right here at Capilano. And when they got to the fourth hole, it was the ladies' turn to shoot. And Mrs. Keat got up to hit the ball, and he said, "Fan it." And she did as she was told, so that he could get up because he was scared she'd put it in the water. He got on the ladies' tee, and Cole shanked it right in the lake. That was the end of a match because the Keats weren't speaking to each other the rest of her way. That's a true story. The finals of the city championship.
That's marvelous.
Fan it. Harry, you're kind of like an old friend of Ken's, aren't you? You're, separate from golf. You and Ken have
Oh,
a
yes,
friendship.
we've known each other for many years. I got to know him after the war a little better, largely through the golf club. And later on, when I moved to West Vancouver, he lived right across the street from me.
I see.
And we spent a little more time together then.
Well, we had about 10 or 15 members with their wives that used to come up here every New Year's Eve, and
Yes.
some pretty hilarious evenings, to say the least. It
Sometimes
was quite tying tales in those days.
Didn't you have an ale and quail club too,
Yeah.
on the game dinners?
well, I wasn't a member of the Own Quail.
Nor was I.
Ken was.
No.
No.
Yes, he was.
Was it
No.
Ken
Ken
Black
Black
was,
was.
and Billy McKenzie and Bill McMahon.
Yeah.
What was
And,
the Ale and Quail Club?
Well, it was a club of just good friends here.
I see.
But they had to provide wild game, either a deer or mostly pheasant or a duck or whatever, and have a chef prepared for their dinner.
Would be once a month. And it was limited to, if I remember correctly, 18 people. Because 18 people were all they could get around the table in the old 19th hole, which is the present card room.
God. Whatever happened to some of those old?
We're nearly all dead.
Traditions.
They're
Yeah.
all done.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
still-
right.
Trying to
they are.
think
They're still slicing at another place.
Trying to think who.
We ran into this, at the time of the 50th anniversary. We were thinking about so many really memorable people that belonged to this club. And there was no record of them, other than in the minds of the other members. And it was such a, I think we tried, Dave, to capture some of that. But gosh, when they go, they go. And,
Well, if I could interject, Peter, and I'm not supposed to be a part, but Kenny has the minute book of the Ale and Quail Club, and he has offered to give it to the archives, provided he got clearance from, I don't know who the other surviving member was, but he said that he would give it to the archives. So we got to run it down now.
I think you better remember that because he's not going to come back to Vancouver. He's going to stay in Oakville.
how is he, Harry? Can you update
He's not
us on-
very well. I honestly don't think he's very well.
That's great, Ken. Thank you.
He's had a couple of, let's say, minor strokes,
Yeah.
and that's all part of it.
Uh-huh.
But he's still with it. I hadn't invited him because I had the privilege of hosting a 100th anniversary dinner for the BC Golf Association last November. And he sent his regrets that he couldn't come. And I saw him not that long ago, and he said, I was really sorry to miss that. So, I mean, I didn't expect that. And he said I'd had some very good feedback on it. So he was just
Oh, Peter, he's very interested in that kind of thing. The main reason is that he was in Oakville when he had this last little stroke that I talked about, was that he was down there to attend the next meeting of the Canadian Hall of Fame.
Yeah. We're inducting Jack Nicklaus right now as we sit here, so September 5th.
Really? And when was,
They're inducting Jack Nicklaus tonight in the Canadian Hall of Fame,
Oh, are
Golf
they?
Hall of Fame. And I got a call today.
Isn't that the guy I beat
Annie
twice?
Palmer's being inducted into the Royal and Ancient at the
I hope that was
autumn
recorded.
meeting this
It'll
year.
be
I was
recorded.
asked if I'd
'Cause it's
fly
true.
over with them, which is nice,
No,
but
it's
I'm not
true.
going to do it.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't make a statement like that.
just as an aside, what did you say again, Jody?
When Peter said that Jack Nicklaus was being inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame tonight, I said, isn't that the guy that I beat twice? And he laughed, because Peter was there, he saw it.
Yeah.
Good games.
Too many clubs in the bag.
That wasn't the case in the first round, though.
You played Nicklaus, did
Pardon?
you?
I played him 5 times.
Did you?
I lost to him most of the time, but I had help to beat him twice, yeah.
I'd like to go back just for a second to this, to that
Peter?
Jubilee
No,
tournament.
shouldn't we eat?
Sure.
No, without the host, or the,
No,
oh, he's not coming?
This is,
no.
This is it.
It's just us.
Yeah, I know, but there was one other person.
no, 6.
No,
Oh, pardon me, okay.
good.
In the Jubilee
Can I
tournament.
get you anything else?
Yes, I did.
Scotch
Jubilee.
water? What's that?
That was
Nothing for
36.
me,
I
thank
think
Which
you're right.
Ken won, and by shooting the course record,
And look who he beat.
and Byron Nelson,
Look who
who was
he beat.
in the clubhouse.
I know.
Or I mentioned this before, but what I was trying to get at was that that was the only time, I believe, and you'll bear me out on this, Peter, if you will, that an amateur has ever won a PGA tournament.
No, up to that time maybe, but since then Doug Sanders won the Canadian as an amateur, and Scott Verplank and Phil
Yeah,
Mickelson
Phil
each
Mickelson.
won.
I'm not,
yes.
I don't think it was a PGA tournament.
Yes, it
then,
was. It was a Phoenix Open, it was a Canadian Open.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, but no, Kenny was the first to do it.
Oh, yes, he, by a
Sanders
long
won,
way.
you're right, Sanders won the Canadian Open.
As an amateur, I didn't realize that.
How was he as a winner and a loser? How did he, was it the same or?
He was a gentleman all the time. I mean,
Never
I
took a
didn't
loss
see
too
as much
seriously as
of
far
him
as
as
I know.
any of you sitting here. But I read as much about him, and I saw less of him than all of you did, but he was a good loser, and he was a,
Don't
He
don't
went-
forget he was a good Scot, too.
yeah,
he
that's
went-
what made him good.
He
That's right.
went over to play in the British after he won the Canadian. And I remember one of her stories was on his first practice round, they got to this hole and it was a blind second shot, and the caddy handed him a 2-iron. And Kenny says, that looks like it's too much. He says, no, hit it, laddie. So Kenny hit this thing, and when they got over the hill, the caddy never stopped. He just walked straight past the green, went way beyond it, found his ball. And Kenny said, well, why did you make me hit a 2-iron? He said, I wanted to know how far you hit a 2-iron because now I can club you properly for the rest of the week. He just wanted to see if he could hit it, and that was a true story.
That's not
And
bad.
Kenny said he never gave him a wrong club the whole week.
Ken would understand that, too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Any other memorable experiences like that you guys can recall? More, I should say, more memorable.
Well, I can't add to that.
That's a great story.
I'm trying to remember when he played here with Bud Wood.
I remember that, too,
Um,
right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what it was that they were playing.
The PNGA?
No. Kenny didn't play in the PNGA in '51 or in the Canadian Amateur in '52.
Yeah, you were thinking of
His
Ward and
dad,
Leonard playing.
Dave Black, was our official starter for the Canadian Amateur here in '52.
Yep.
I remember something about Dave Black. I played behind him here one day. This would be shortly after the war. And he was playing with little Ted Campbell, the Lecky shoe man.
Yeah.
A little bit of a guy.
Oh, yes, yes.
Lacrosse player.
But Davey had a 2 on the 9th, 3 on the 10th, and 1 on the 11th. 2, 3, 1 around that corner.
Isn't that something?
You know, and Ken, when this golf club, or golf course, rather, was first opened, and when Jock McKinnon came over here as professional, there was no clubhouse at that time. He worked out of the tool shed down there.
You teed off on 12.
We teed off on 12, and Ken lived on East Cod Road, which just along by the 7th fairway, and Jock didn't have anything to do around here. So he was over at Ken's place nearly every night for dinner. Ken said Jock was a great trencherman. He could go through 2 big stakes, not 1, 2, any old time, and so on. So they were great friends, of course. And Ken was very, very good to Jock when he was, but he was only about 21 or 2, I believe, when he came over. Over here first. Yeah.
What do you all think that Ken might comment as far as the state, not the state of the golf course, but the golf club as it is today, and the guys and stuff? If he were younger, would he be happy to be playing with everybody that's here?
We'd have to be a lot younger too.
Assuming you were. Are we heading in the right direction?
I don't know. I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about, Peter, but I think Jack Kinney and I probably played the last game of golf with Ken that he ever played on this golf course with the members. This is maybe 20 years ago. I'm just guessing, that's all. And he did play one other game that I remember with his son, who came out here from Oakville to see him, and they did play, he and Mamie. However, we played this particular day, and I can understand why he didn't want to play very much anymore. This is, at the time, I guess Jake and I was about a 10, and so was Jake. And we got around the 12th hole, and he couldn't hit that tee shot over the big bunker.
Yeah.
And he finished with an 89 that day. And so he wasn't playing it. And he really didn't care very much.
Once he couldn't do it the way he
That's right.
used to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you asked a question, though it wasn't just related to his golf. I think you described it well. He probably didn't want to play anymore because he couldn't do what he wanted with the ball, which he was so accustomed to. But you really asked about the direction of a club. And I don't think that the clubhouse or the golf course have ever been better than they are today. So I want to be careful the context I put it in. But this should be the greatest club in Canada. And I think we missed that through the actions of our boards of directors of a few years ago when they put in the compulsory food charge instead of upping the dues, because we lost quite a few desirable members that didn't play much, but had the odd big party here, like Victor McLean, George McKean, and people like that, who were super members but didn't come up much because they lived on the other side.
Yeah.
And I think this became a bit of a West Vancouver recreation club because we have very few members. You've got two of them here tonight, and Ken Newbury and myself, who don't live in West Van. There are very few people that belong here that come from the other side now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pity, because I think this club should attract whoever they want, who wants to belong to a golf club. And I think a couple of our rival clubs, if we have such a thing, have a membership that is probably business and socially equal or better, and that we should be able to have our pick. But we have a lot of very nice people here. I'm not knocking it, but I think it became a West Van club through the processes of a board of directors. I think it was a terrible mistake, and the membership thought it was a mistake and voted against it, but they implemented it anyhow.
I don't think Capilano has a rival club in BC.
Well, I don't think we have one in Canada. I think this is
I mean,
set
from
up as
location,
unique.
From location, golf course, presentation, anything. There's no golf course can compare to Capilano.
I played the president of Scarborough and his wife were out here a couple of years ago.
Scarborough?
Yeah. And my wife and I were playing, and happened to, they put us together. And he was drawing comparisons, and he said, when you look at the Toronto golf clubs, and the top layer being Glen Abbey and the National and St. George's and Toronto Golf Club and whatnot, and then the next echelon, which was the Islingtons and the Westons and the Scarboroughs and so on. And he said, look at it any way you want. This club is head and shoulders over any was his opinion.
You're talking about Scarborough?
Yeah.
Is this a message to Ken tonight? Ken, I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
I played at Scarborough in 1958 in the Canadian Amateur Golf Championship. And I played in the quarterfinals against a fellow by the name of Ted Lenzig. His sister was more famous than he was, in the name of Grace.
Yeah, Grace Lenzig.
Grace Lenzig.
She played here in the Canadian Ladies Amateur.
That's right.
I'll never forget this. It was my first Wellington Cup team. I was so excited to get down there. And I happened to play well in the match play, because I played match play fairly well. Anyway, I played 9 extra holes with 2 birdies tied of the previous 8 holes against Ted Lenzig in match play. I lost on the 27th hole at Scarborough, which proved out to be, and still is, the longest match ever played in the history of the Canadian Amateur Golf Championship in extra holes. Of course, they've gone to medal play, and they've gone back and forth. Anyway,
It's match play this year.
It is,
Yeah.
Well, I doubt, like hell, if anybody
Is it?
will go that far
It
again.
was, yeah.
27 holes, he beat me. But to top it off, I met my friend Bages, who was coming off the 15th hole, which came right by the 9th green, prior to going off the tee on 16 at Scarborough. And I was about to tell Doug the great match that I had just lost. But he was too busy playing Bobby Brew, telling me what a miserable little jerk he was and how he shouldn't be losing to my buddy Pages. I'll never forget that. It was so funny. Those are good days. That's for the record, Harry.
Yeah.
Could I just ask a question pertinent to where you were going, Peter? How the ambience or the social relationships have changed over the years when you were here, Ken? Is it more cliquey now? Was it more cliquey then?
It was never cliquey in the old days, and I just felt because you could come up and get a game. I don't know when I first had to start making up a game on a Saturday or a Tuesday to come up. We just sat down with somebody and off you went. I think the fact that we have too big a membership, and therefore everything has to be booked 6 or 7 days ahead, and unless you can give them a right number of names, you can't do that. That forces you to phone the guys you know. And so there's lots of members here I've never met. I don't know who they are.
Peter, you're right. I think until about, I would guess about 1955. We never had golf time at all. You just came up and played. And you waited until somebody showed up to play with.
I know when I joined the club in 1965, you know, I was a 16 or something, not a very good golfer, and I was, you know, terribly apprehensive that, you know, well, you're not an art. And I never encountered that, and I wonder, is it changing? If there's a 29 handicap standing down waiting for a game, and there's you, Peter, and Ken, I know you would say, come on.
Our threesome's already made up.
Yeah.
I know you're getting at. I know what you're saying, and I agree. I don't think that that the fellows that are probably 4 and 5 and 3 and 2 handicappers today are that anxious to play with someone that's a 20 handicapper.
Well, I think that's that's understandable.
Yeah, of course it's understandable. I'm not saying it's wrong. But
Nor would the 20 handicapper be very comfortable playing with.
But you have to make him
No,
comfortable.
that's one of the beauties of golf. You
That
can
is.
do it.
You make him comfortable.
If you keep
And you
moving
help him.
along.
That's right.
You know, as long as you move quickly,
Who cares?
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
As long as they understand the game of golf, the handicap system looks after it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's getting different.
Well, I've often said that there's 3 things make a great golf club. One, of course, is a good course, and a good clubhouse, and a good membership. And I say you can burn down the clubhouse,
Yeah.
and you've still got a good golf.
Yeah.
You can plow up the fairways, and you've still got a good golf club.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to the people.
Absolutely.
Because you can,
Well, should we, everybody hungry?
Yes.
well, could I raise something that's
Yeah.
alien to this? As you know, I'm mixed up with this archives committee. We're gradually working our way through, and we may call upon you gentlemen singly to look at some of the material. You know, there's so many things where photographs were put in, like the one that Ken has, and there was never a date put on it. We don't know who the people are. An example is when Mr. Woodward teed off on the opening of the club. There's a great array of people there, and you know, I don't know them. Probably you could identify a great many of them. So we would appreciate that very much.
glad to do it.
Well, I might be able to add something to the archives of Capilano.
Excuse me.
Because, you know, my uncle was A.J.T. Taylor's senior partner, John Anderson.
Oh,
That was my mother's brother.
That's
And
the
I-
Anderson that lived down here?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's my cousin, John. He's gone.
I didn't know
I'm
that.
talking about my uncle, my mother's brother.
Yep.
John Anderson's been dead many years. But he was A.J.T. Taylor's senior partner, and he was the man that was one of the instigators of building this property for Guinness's. And he was the one that brought Jock McKinnon out from Forfar, Scotland, to give him the job.
he brought a liar out, did he not?
Pardon me?
He brought a liar out, did he not?
I believe he
Didn't
may
he lie about his age?
He may have. But he brought Jock. He went to Forfar, Scotland, and brought him out personally to give him the job here. Anyway,
I think Kenny told me that, as a matter of fact, that Chuck wasn't that old when he
no.
Is that
got
right?
here, yeah.
But I think my cousin Chris, my Uncle John's eldest daughter, who's still alive today, has a picture of Sir Stanley Thompson, Jock McKinnon, my father, and myself on the 13th hole in front of my uncle's house in 1937. And I'm going to try to get some photographs from her.
Did you say Sir Stanley Thompson?
No, he wasn't a sir then. He was just Stanley Thompson.
I didn't know he
I
was
said,
that
I don't
old.
think he
no, he
ever
was
was.
knighted.
No, I don't think so. I don't believe so.
I thought he was knighted.
No.
I don't think so,
I
no.
don't
He
think
did?
so, John.
No, he
No.
is still
Oh, okay.
Stanley Thompson.
So anyway, someone called him sir. Maybe it was me because I was only 10. Yes, sir. There you go. That's where it came from.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
Right.
Well, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but maybe I can just interject it just for fun. You don't remember it, but do you remember a little sawed-off guy, a Frenchman that I used to play with, Hector Vidricaire?
Yeah.
Well, one day we were out playing, just the two of us. We came out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We went out to play and so on, and we got around to the 16th hole. And we had a bet on who could hit the green. Well, I didn't. I was about 5 feet short, I think. But Hector made it on the green. He hit a great shot. He was about 15 feet from the pin or something other. Now, as we walked up there, he said, "Say," he said, "there's Stan Thompson up there standing beside the green." And I said, "Yes, it is." So as we walked up there, he knew Hector, and he knew me in a sort of way, and so on. He never said a word. He just went over and handed him, reached out his hand, and gave him a dime, just for hitting the green. Never said anything, and then walked away.
Well, gentlemen, this taping has a double meaning. Of course, you've been talking about Kenny, but as I say, it is a valuable addition to the archives that, 50, 75 years down the road, that people then can at least hear the voices of people who were members of the club. And, so I'll keep a copy, Peter.
Yes. Is there any way we could, and if you wish, move this microphone to our dinner table?
Sure.
Do you want to do that, or would you just soon?
I think we can just have a relaxed time instead of being taped, probably.
Very
I think
good.
we probably
And we can take.
achieved what you had hoped, I
And we
think.
might use some bad language.
Yeah, well, that's...
You can always cut it out.
I can't. No, that's fine. That's good.
Shall I shut it off then,
Yeah,
Peter?
let's, I think we
Okay.
Well,
Very
thank you
good.
for including us in it.